The diplomatic chamber aboard the Zenith Accord hummed with tension as Ambassador Velkoth of the Crithian Dominion sneered at the human delegation. His crystalline exoskeleton refracted the ship's ambient light into sharp, judgmental prisms across the polished floor. "Your species," he chittered through his translator, "has been spacefaring for barely 2 centuries. You ask for a seat on the Galactic Council?" His mandibles clicked in what passed for Crithian laughter. "The Dominion has navigated the stars for 50,000 years. You are children playing with toys. You do not understand." Captain Kirsten Matthews stood at the head of the human delegation, her expression carved from stone. 20 years commanding deep space vessels had taught her patience, but Velkoth was testing its limits. Beside her, Commander Alexander Chun maintained his diplomatic smile, though his jaw muscles betrayed his irritation. "Ambassador," Kirsten said evenly, "we may be young, but young?" Velkoth interrupted, his 4 eyes blazing with contempt. "You are infants. Your vessels are crude. Your technology borrowed and cobbled together. You have contributed nothing to galactic civilization except noise and demand." The other ambassadors, a towering Vexian, a gelatinous Urt collective representative, and a mechanical Syntharch delegate remained silent. They had seen this before. Humanity's application for council membership had been controversial from the start. Alexander stepped forward, his diplomatic training kicking in. "Ambassador Velkoth, perhaps we could discuss humanity's achievements in..." "Achievements?" Velkoth's laugh echoed like breaking glass. "What achievements? You stumbled into FTL travel by accident. You barely understand quantum entanglement. Your ships require manual piloting because your AI systems are primitive." He turned to address the other ambassadors. "They cannot even navigate a standard cruiser through a plasma storm without risking catastrophic failure." The Vexian ambassador shifted uncomfortably. The Syntharch's optical sensors dimmed perhaps in secondhand. Embarrassment. Kirsten felt the familiar heat of anger rising in her chest, but she forced it down. She had not survived the Kepler incident, the Proxima siege, and 3 years in the Outer Rim by losing her composure. "Commander Chun," she said quietly, not taking her eyes off Velkoth, "please access the ship's manifest. I need to know something." Alexander pulled out his datapad, fingers flying across the holographic interface. "Captain, are there any galactic cruiser pilots currently on board this vessel?" The question hung in the air like a sparked fuse. Velkoth's mandibles froze mid-click. The other ambassadors suddenly became very interested in the conversation. Alexander's eyebrows rose as he scanned the manifest. "Captain, we have. Quite a few, actually." "How many?" 37 crew members with galactic cruiser piloting certifications. 15 with combat flight experience in them. 7 with instructor-level ratings. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Velkoth's exoskeleton flushed a deep purple Acrithian sign of confusion. "That is ... impossible. Galactic cruisers require decades of training. The neural interface alone demands years of adaptation. Your species has only had access to them for 8 years, Kirsten finished. "We purchased our first cruisers from the merchant fleets 8 years ago. Within 6 months, we had reverse-engineered the piloting systems. Within a year, we had adapted the neural interfaces for human physiology. Within 2 years, we were training pilots at a rate that made your military advisors nervous." She took a step toward the ambassador. "You want to know why humanity should have a council seat? Because we don't just learn, we master. We don't just survive, we excel. You gave us crude technology and expected us to limp along. Instead, we made it better." Alexander pulled up a holographic display. The Vexian government requested human pilots to assist with their relief efforts after the Omega Nebula disaster. Human cruiser pilots evacuated 14,000 Vexians from a collapsing star system in conditions that would have killed any other species' pilots. The Urt Collective, Kirsten continued, nodding toward the gelatinous ambassador, hired human pilots to map the dark space expanse because our primitive manual piloting could navigate gravitational anomalies that sophisticated AI couldn't predict. She locked eyes with Velkoth. And your own Dominion, didn't you quietly contract 20 human pilots last year for your deep core mining operations near black holes? Because our crude skills somehow managed to reduce operational losses by 40%? Velkoth's purple flush deepened to violet. His silence was confession enough. You mock us for being young, Alexander said, his diplomatic mask finally slipping to reveal a cold edge. But you forget what youth means. We haven't spent 50,000 years becoming complacent. We haven't forgotten how to adapt, how to innovate, how to fight for every scrap of progress. Kirsten returned to her position at the head of the table. Every species in this galaxy learned to fly their ships over millennia. We learned in decades. Every species developed their technology through slow, careful iteration. We take your technology and make it ours within years. You see crude toys. We see potential waiting to be unlocked. She placed both hands on the table, leaning forward. You ask what humanity contributes to galactic civilization? We contribute what every civilization eventually loses: hunger, drive, the refusal to accept that anything is impossible. The Syntharch's optical sensors brightened. A compelling argument, Captain Matthews. The Vexian ambassador rumbled his agreement. Even the Urt Collective pulsed with approving colors. Velkoth stood rigid, his mandibles working soundlessly. Finally, he spoke, his voice stripped of its earlier contempt. Perhaps the Dominion has been hasty in its assessment. Kirsten smiled a warrior smile, sharp and unyielding. Ambassador, we don't need you to approve of us. We need you to recognize reality. Humanity isn't asking for a seat on the council because we're ready. We're ready because we stopped asking for permission generations ago. We're already here. The only question is whether the council wants to work with us or watch from the sidelines while we reshape the galaxy anyway. She straightened, turning to address all the ambassadors. Now then, shall we continue these negotiations? I believe we have a lot to discuss. In the corner of the chamber, Alexander allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. Humanity had just announced its arrival on the galactic stage, not with polite requests, but with undeniable proof. They were no longer children playing with toys. They were the future, and the galaxy would learn to make room. End.